Hey, first grade friends. Today in Go Math, we are going to be in Volume 2, and we are going to be on 17.1 here at the top and page 591 as we start studying length and measurement. It asks us to draw something that is longer than this drinking straw. So that's what I'm going to get out my pencil and I'm going to do. So if I want something longer, it really needs to be bigger than that straw. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle, just a really big rectangle, and I want it to be longer than that straw. So I use my pencil and I drew that, and you guys can see that it is going to be longer because it goes past the end of that straw. You can see how much longer it actually is. Then the next thing it asks us to do is to draw something shorter than that key. So now it's going to have to be smaller. So I'm again just going to draw another rectangle because that's something I can do. And I want you guys to take a look. So this rectangle is shorter than this key because if I look at the end of this key and I pull my finger down like that, I can see that that rectangle doesn't come near as far. So that's how I know that this is shorter. Sometimes whenever you're measuring things, like on a piece of paper, it helps to draw lines at the beginning of the object and then at the end of the object. And that kind of helps us too with seeing if it's shorter. So I drew a line starting at the beginning of the key, which actually matched up with my rectangle. And then I drew a line at the end of my key. Did my rectangle go as far as the key? No, it didn't. So it's definitely going to be what we call shorter. Now let's turn over to the next page. And it kind of gives us some information about measuring length. It says you can use string to measure the length of the pencil box. So you guys can see that they've used a piece of string right here to measure the length of the pencil box. And it just so happens that I actually had some string around my house, so I made it about the length of this to show you guys how to do this. All right, so I have my string, and it's about the same length as the one on the page. About means it's almost or very close. Now I'm going to measure these objects down here to see if they will fit inside my pencil box. So notice I've lined up the end of my string with the line, and I'm going to flatten it out. Now that pencil is longer than the string, and I know that if it's at the string or it's shorter, it's going to fit into the box. So will my pencil fit into the pencil box? No, it won't, because this much of it from right here at the end of the string to the line would hang out. So I can't circle that object. If I slide it down here and measure my popsicle stick, notice I've lined it up on the end. And my string is longer. So would my popsicle stick fit in my pencil box? Yes, it would. So I'm going to circle that. Okay, now I'm going to move my string down. And I'm going to measure starting at the end right there. And my string goes past the end of the crayon, so I know that my crayon would fit inside this pencil box. So I circle it. Now let's move it down to the straw. If I flatten out my string and I hold it up next to the straw, will the straw fit in my pencil box? No, because this much of my straw would be hanging out of the pencil box, so it would not fit in there. Let's go ahead and do number 5. I'm going to use my string again, and I'm going to measure my marker. Would that fit inside my pencil box? Yes, because it's smaller than my string, so I'm going to circle it. Let's see the glue stick. I can probably guess on the glue stick already, but let's just measure it just to be sure. All right, so would the glue stick fit? Yes, because it's smaller than the string. In fact, I could probably fit almost another glue stick in there right next to it. So I'm going to circle that. Now you can use string to measure things. You can also use a lot of different tools to measure things. A string would be what we call a non-standard unit of measure because it's not lined, it doesn't have any numbers on it, and my string might not be the same length as another string that somebody else had. So this is a non-standard unit of measure. Another unit of measure is the standard unit, and this is a ruler you can use to measure things, and that would be a standard measure because you're going to see that it has numbers on it. And so I know that if I hold this up to my string, let's say I'm going to measure my string, that I know that my string is about 5 inches long. Okay, I know that. If I measured using a tape measure is going to be the same. So if I put the end of the tape measure next to the ruler, you guys can see that the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5, they all match up. So I can use a tape measure as a standard measurement tool, and I get the same answer as if I'm using the ruler as a standard measurement tool. You guys can see that if I measured that piece of string on here, it's still about 5 inches long, and that was exactly what I found when I used my ruler because these are standard measurements. So this week we're going to be talking about non-standard measurement. All right, I can use some wheat thins right here to measure my remote control by taking my wheat thins. And the most important thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that your wheat thins are all the exact same size. See, I can stack them on each other and they are all the exact same size. That's the most important thing whenever you're measuring using non-standard measurements. You want to make sure that what you're measuring with, like your wheat thins, are the same size. All right, the next thing that's second most important, when you measure like your remote control, you want to make sure that you line the ends up together. So they should be exactly or very, very close to the exact same spot. Something else that's important is you want to make sure it doesn't overlap. Though that won't work. You want to just make sure that it's right there together with no gaps in between. And I can measure my remote control using wheat thins. And about how many wheat thins is the length of my remote control? Well, I can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My remote control is about 5 wheat thins long. Now, I can use dominoes to measure my remote control also. Again, one of the most important things is I want to make sure that all my dominoes are the exact same size. And I can see that they're all the same size because when I put them on top of each other, I only see that one. And I want to make sure that whenever I'm measuring that I don't overlap on top of each other. No, I want them to just come up next to each other just like that where there are no gaps. So, my remote control is shorter than 4 dominoes, isn't it? So I could say that my remote control is about 3 dominoes long because about means that it's not quite, but it's very, very close. So why did I have 5 wheat thins on this side and only 3 dominoes? Because these are non-standard units of measure. You're not going to get the same length because this wheat thin is not the same size as this domino. If I were to compare a wheat thin with a domino, well, look at there. That wheat thin is shorter than the domino. Since it's smaller, it takes more wheat thins than it would dominoes to measure my remote control because it's shorter, so it takes more. This is longer. These dominoes are longer, so it takes less dominoes to measure my remote control. Now, if I wanted to measure my remote control, again, could I use dominoes and wheat thins like that? No, I cannot, because these forms of measurement need to be the exact same. And we looked at that a second ago. This domino is not the same size as the wheat thin, so you cannot do that. They have to be the same size. All right, now I'm going to measure my son's Nerf gun here. So I know that all these dominoes are the exact same size because we looked at that a second ago. Now I'm going to line them up. So did I measure this correctly? No, I did not. Why not? I lined it up on the end about where, like you told me to, Miss Burris. Yeah, but there's still a problem. Look at this gap. Are they touching each other? No? Then that's a problem. Your dominoes or whatever you're measuring with have to be right there together. Well, can I put it on top of it like that? Nope. That's called overlapping, and that won't work. They just have to be right next to each other. What about if I do that? That looks right. This is the same size as this one, but this piece right here is not the same length as this piece. So is it? No, that's not correct either. It has to be turned the exact same way for it to work. So, about how many dominoes long is this Nerf gun? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This Nerf gun is about 6 dominoes long. Do you think that it would take more or less wheat thins to measure this? If you said more, you're right, because the wheat thins are smaller. So you can see for every 2 dominoes, 3 wheat thins fill that. So it's going to take more than the dominoes to measure this. You can use things around your house to measure using non-standard units. You guys can see that I have taken these DVDs and I have lined them up on the edge of my carpet, and I went all the way down to the other end. Now you guys are going to notice that there's a little gap right here. So is it going to be exact? No, it's not going to be exact. We're going to use the word about to measure this. So if I counted how many DVD cases, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. My carpet is about 10 DVDs long. Look around your house. Find some things that you can measure and some tools that you can measure with. Maybe you want to use some wheat thins or maybe some goldfish crackers. As long as whatever you're measuring with is the same size, you can use those to measure, and that's called non-standard units of measure. You can use the dominoes to measure things also. That's a fun way. You can use the DVD cases to measure. That's also fun too. Or maybe you have some Legos that you want to use. Just make sure that each thing is the exact same size. That means if I put them on top of each other, I can't even tell that there are 2 because there's nothing sticking out over here and nothing sticking out over here, or over here. They're the exact same size. Also, make sure when you're measuring that you put them side by side, no gaps, no gaps, no gaps, no overlapping and no gaps. Make sure that you start at the end of the object and go to the other end of the object. Don't forget to use the word about when you're measuring because it's not going to be exact. It's going to be very, very close to it. So today we've talked about standard units of measure, and we've talked about non-standard units of measure. I hope you guys have fun measuring some things around your house. Next week we'll practice some more. Thanks. Have a great week. Bye-bye.